Recorded Books presents Blue Fire by John Gilstrap, narrated by Kate Forbes. Chapter 1. Hell Day plus 34. Victoria Emerson heard the urgency in the tone before she understood the words. She pivoted toward the back door as she rose from the table that she'd transformed into a makeshift desk in what used to be a diner called Maggie's Place. Since the days immediately following the war, Maggie's had served as an ersatz city hall. Victoria's knees scooted her chair across the wooden floor as she stood. "What on earth is that?" asked Ellie Stewart. They'd been meeting about the status of the clothing bank, now that the air had begun to smell like winter. "Whatever it is, it sounds important." Victoria opened the door. A horse approached at a full gallop. Its rider, her 14-year-old son Luke, hung tight to the saddle horn with his left hand while he slapped the reins with his right. Never having sat a horse until a few weeks ago, he'd taken to it well, but he was pushing the beast way too hard on the asphalt roadway. "Blue fire!" he yelled. "Coming down the river! Blue fire! Coming down the river!" Victoria's heart doubled its rate. "Is he shouting blue fire?" Ellie asked, standing. Everyone understood blue fire to be the code phrase for the highest level of alert. It meant imminent danger from deadly forces, whether man-made or from natural causes. Victoria didn't answer. Instead, she reached back inside the door and grabbed the M4 rifle that was never more than a few feet away from her. It was a sad fact about feral, terrified humans that violence came more instinctively than kindness. That was a lesson hard learned in the first days after Hell Day, after the war. Slinging the rifle over her shoulder, she adjusted the pistol that always rested on her hip to make room for the stock, and stepped the rest of the way outside. She waved, trying to get Luke's attention, but he was focused on spreading the word of imminent peril. She shivered against the chill of the autumn air and jogged around the side of the building toward the intersection of Mountain Road and Kanawha Road, the spot that had evolved by silent consensus to be the social and governmental center here in Ortho, West Virginia. This unincorporated little burg had never had its own town government, instead taking leadership from a county whose real leaders had evaporated, either killed in the attacks and their aftermath or just choosing to flee. Those who remained had survived the unspeakable destruction of Hell Day, the 8-hour conflict that left the world in ruins. But all the technology and conveniences of the 21st century were gone. Even the previous century was beyond reach. Electricity was a memory, and without it little else worked. Most of the homes that existed on Hell Day had propane in the tanks buried in their backyards, and as long as pressure remained, the gas could flow. But the clock was ticking down on that too. Equipment that utilized microcircuitry, or was even moderately computerized, had been transformed by electromagnetic pulse into paperweights and doorstops. A few ancient cars still worked, but without electricity to power pumps, it was a daunting challenge to raise gasoline from underground tanks, where it languished, unused. As she hurried toward the square, Victoria looked across the street and caught the eye of Army Major Joe McCrae, who returned a look of dread. He had not made the progress he'd been hoping for on the construction of barricades to provide some level of protection from miscreants and marauders. The town still reeled from the attack from...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.